The great hall of the Velinari Palace shimmered with light that was alive. Every wall was a sheet of crystal, every pillar a song of color, and every eye in that room stared at the lone human who stood at its center. Elias Ward felt the weight of 1,000 alien gazes, each one judging, measuring, and finding him unworthy. He wore the plain uniform of a Terran peace envoy, still scarred from the war that had nearly destroyed both their species. His left arm was metal from shoulder to wrist, his face marked by burns that no surgeon could ever smooth. The Velinari were beings of beauty, luminous, symmetrical, graceful. To them, ugliness was sin, and humans were born of sin. The king of the Velinari sat upon a throne of radiant glass, his many eyes gleaming with a cool, dangerous curiosity. He was tall and thin, his skin a living mirror of violet and gold. When he spoke, his voice resonated like an organ's hum, deep enough to stir the air itself. "Human," he said, "your kind has burned our moons, poisoned our seas, and now crawls before us asking for peace. Why should I listen?" Elias looked up slowly. "Because I don't want to see another child die," he said. "Not yours. Not ours." The court murmured. The Velinari hated weakness, but they understood courage when they saw it. The king leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "You speak of peace, but your body tells the truth. War is carved into you." "I didn't come here to hide it," Elias replied. "I came to end it." The king rose, his robes whispering like storm clouds. "Then end it you shall. There is one path to peace between our races, a union, a marriage." Elias frowned. "Marriage?" The courtiers began to laugh, the sound like the tinkling of glass. The king raised a hand for silence. "Yes, human. My daughter will wed a human. That bond will seal the peace. But not my firstborn, she is promised to a prince. Not my second, she despises your kind. My youngest, perhaps. She was born blind. She cannot see your scars, nor the hideous imperfection of your flesh. Perhaps she will find it easier to endure you." Elias stiffened. "You'd marry me to your blind daughter." The king's gaze was cold. "She sees only what is felt through sound and touch. She cannot see how ugly you are. And if she accepts you, I will sign the treaty that will save your world." The words hung heavy in the crystal air. Elias wanted to be angry, but his people were starving. Earth's colonies were collapsing. Millions waited for his success. "If that's what it takes," he said finally, "I'll do it." The king nodded to the guards. "Then you will meet her. If she chooses you, the alliance will stand. If not..." He didn't need to finish the sentence. They led Elias down a corridor lined with light that shimmered like flowing water. At the end of it was a small garden, alive with pale flowers that glowed softly in the twilight. A figure stood among them, slender, silver-haired, her skin like frosted glass. When she turned, her eyes were pale and sightless, but her expression gentle. "Who's there?" she asked. "Elias Ward," he said. "A human envoy." She tilted her head, listening to the tone of his voice. "You sound sad." He smiled faintly. "You could say that." She stepped closer, her bare feet silent on the glowing stone. "They told me a human would come. I thought you would sound louder." "Louder? Your people make war. You should sound like thunder. But you sound like rain." He didn't know what to say. When she reached out a hand, he hesitated, then let her touch his face. Her fingers traced the rough scars across his cheek, the uneven line of his jaw, the cold metal of his prosthetic. She didn't recoil. Instead, she smiled softly. "You've been hurt," she whispered. "So have we all," he said. I can feel the strength under your scars, she murmured. The warmth beneath the iron. My people judge what they see. I see with what I feel. He stared at her, speechless. She was blind, yet in that moment she saw him more clearly than anyone ever had. Days became weeks. The court watched in disbelief as the blind princess, Lyraven, spent her days walking with the human in the gardens. She taught him how to hear the wind through the crystal leaves, how to feel the pulse of the world through his feet. He told her of Earth, of oceans that breathed and skies that burned with sunset colors she would never see. She laughed when he tried to describe the sea. You speak of it like it's alive, she said. It is, he answered. It's wild and endless and cruel, but beautiful too. Her smile faded. Like you. The king began to notice their closeness. His advisors whispered of scandal, of impurity. But his daughter was happier than she had ever been. Her dim glow, once dull from illness and blindness, had begun to brighten, pulsing faintly with emotion. The Velenari were creatures of light. Their bioluminescence reflected their hearts. And hers was beginning to shine. Then came the trial of honor. The nobles demanded that Elias prove his worth. A soldier must fight, they said. He must bleed for the crown he would claim. The king agreed. You will face my champion, he decreed. If you live, you may ask for my daughter's hand. In the great hall, the Velenari warrior Tereth stood waiting, golden-skinned, tall as two men, his blade humming with light. Do not fear, he said. Your death will be swift. Elias drew his plasma knife. Small, crude, human. I've heard that before. The duel began. Tereth moved like lightning, his blade cutting the air in bright arcs. Elias blocked the first strike with his metal arm, sparks showering across the floor. The impact nearly broke him. He ducked, rolled, struck low. The warrior's weapon slashed his shoulder, searing flesh. Pain burned hot, but he didn't yield. He had survived worse. They fought for minutes that felt like hours. The Velenari moved with elegance. Elias fought with desperation. He waited for a single opening, and when it came, he took it. He caught Teretha's wrist, twisted hard, and slammed his prosthetic arm against the warrior's chest. Metal met crystal. Tereth fell. Elias stood over him, blood running down his side, his blade at the alien's throat. Yield, he said. The hall went silent. The king's eyes gleamed. Then he raised one long hand. Enough. The human has proven himself. Lyraven's glow filled the chamber like dawn. Father, she said. He is not what you think. He is kind. He is brave. And he carries more light than any of us. The king looked at her, then at Elias and sighed. Then let it be so. Marry him, daughter of mine, and let this war end. The ceremony was unlike any in human history. Beneath the twin sons of Veles Prime, the blind princess and the scarred soldier stood together before both species. When they joined hands, her light grew radiant, and for the first time, her people bowed their heads. The human, they said later, was still ugly, but his heart burned with something they had never known. Love. Peace followed, but not easily. There were riots in the lower spires of the city. Velenari who called her name a curse. Humans who sent messages of anger, calling Elias a traitor. The new couple lived surrounded by guards and silence. And still, they found happiness in small moments. Her laughter, his stories, the way she traced his face to understand what she could never see. One night, as they stood on the balcony overlooking the glowing plains, Lyraven said softly, Elias, do you ever wish I could see you? He hesitated. Sometimes. But maybe it's better this way. Why? Because if you could see, you might not love me anymore. She touched his cheek. Then you still don't understand. I see you better than anyone ever could. He kissed her forehead. Then that's enough for me. But their peace was short-lived. In the shadows of the court, hatred grew. The nobles whispered that the human had bewitched the princess, that her glow, her very light, was being drained by his presence. And one night they struck. Explosions ripped through the palace. Elias woke to fire and screaming. He ran through corridors choked with smoke until he found her, half buried beneath a collapsed beam. Her body glowed faintly, dimming. He lifted the beam with his metal arm and pulled her free. "Lyra!" he shouted. Her fingers brushed his chest weakly. They said, "You'd destroy us." "I'll save you," he said, his voice breaking. "I swear." "No," she whispered, her voice fading. "You already did. You ended the war." Her hand fell limp. Guards rushed in, pulling Elias away, shouting accusations. The king arrived moments later, his expression unreadable as his daughter was carried to the healers. Elias stood there, surrounded by soldiers, the smell of smoke heavy in the air. The king looked at him. "If she dies human, your people die with her." And Elias, broken, bloodied, his heart shattered, met his gaze. "Then I'll save her," he said. "Even if I have to tear your world apart to do it." The healers worked through the night. Lyra hovered between life and death, her light flickering like a candle in wind. Elias stayed by her side, refusing to leave. The king watched from a distance, silent. He had thought the human weak, fragile, pitiful. But this man's love defied everything he understood. When dawn came, and the blind princess took her first breath again, the king knew something had changed. Maybe he thought ugliness had its own kind of beauty. And as the twin suns rose, Elias held her hand, whispering, "I'm here." Lyraven's lips moved faintly, her voice a whisper. "I know. I see you." And though her eyes were blind, her world had never been brighter. Part 2. The Girl Who Saw the Stars. The human soldier, Elias Kane, stood on the balcony of the alien citadel, his hand resting on the cold silver railing. Below him, the city of Virulun shimmered, glowing in soft blues and silvers beneath twin moons. Once it had been a war zone. Now it was home. Inside, the soft voice of Arilen, the blind alien girl he had married, carried through the air, humming a haunting tune. It wasn't a song from Earth. It was one her mother had sung when the stars still trusted their people. She couldn't see him standing there, but somehow she always knew when he was lost in thought. "Elias," she said softly, "you're brooding again." He turned, smiling faintly. "Am I that easy to read?" "I can't see your face," she said, a playful edge in her tone. "But I can feel when you're frowning. The air changes around you when you do." Elias chuckled, but her words lingered. Arilen, the blind sister he was once offered to marry out of political convenience, had become something more than a peace treaty, something more than a symbol. She had become home, the beginning of change. 3 months had passed since the wedding. The uneasy alliance between the Terran Confederation and the Virulun Ascendancy was holding, but barely. On Earth, people whispered that Elias was a traitor for marrying one of them. On Virulun, alien nobles spat when they passed him in corridors, furious that their princess had chosen a human. But neither side understood. They didn't see what he saw. Arilen might have been blind, but her vision cut deeper than sight. She felt people, their emotions, their pain, their truths. Her kind were empathic to a degree that bordered on telepathy. And she had felt Elias's heart the day he refused to kill her people during the war. That was why she'd asked him to stay. One evening, as he returned from a diplomatic meeting, Elias found Arilen sitting by the star fountain, a pool that reflected light from the moons above. "Did they insult you again?" she asked, not turning her head. Elias hesitated. "They said this peace won't last. That your people will betray us the moment they regain strength. And what do you think? I think they don't understand what it cost you to forgive." She smiled sadly. "Forgiveness isn't sight, Elias. It doesn't mean I don't see the scars. It means I chose not to live inside them. A secret in the shadows." But something was changing. Late one night, as Arilen slept, a cold pulse spread through the citadel's air, a vibration that made Elias's implants flicker. He scanned his communicator. Encrypted transmissions bouncing from orbit. Unknown signals. Arilen stirred. "Elias, the stars are whispering again." He froze. She felt it too. The next morning, during a council meeting, Elias confronted the alien generals. "Someone's transmitting from orbit." "Who authorized that?" The High Marshal's voice was sharp. "No one human. Perhaps your own kind is spying." But Arilen stepped forward, calm as ever. "It's neither of us. It's something older." The council chamber fell silent. "Older?" Elias asked. "The stars, they hum in pain. It's like before the War of Silence. My mother told me, when the first lights died, the void began to listen." Elias didn't understand her words then. But that night he would. The eyes of the void. He woke to the sound of alarms. The citadel trembled. Outside, the sky tore open, a swirling scar of dark light, folding space upon itself. Elias grabbed his plasma rifle and rushed to the balcony. Dozens of alien ships rose into the sky, their silver hulls flashing. But against the black wound in space, their weapons looked like fireflies before a hurricane. Something was coming through. Arilen appeared behind him, clutching her crystal staff. "It's them," she whispered. "The ones who took my sight." Elias turned to her, startled. "What do you mean?" She trembled, voice breaking. "When I was a child, saw too far. I looked into the dark between stars. They showed me things. They burned my sight away so I wouldn't warn anyone." The truth struck him like a blade. Her blindness wasn't natural. It was inflicted. "Then they're the real enemy," he said grimly. She nodded. "They're called the Null sovereigns. They devour light. They erase worlds." The decision. As the planet prepared for evacuation, Elias met with the High Marshal and Virilan Council. "We can't run," Elias said. "They'll follow. We have to fight together." "You would risk annihilation," sneered one alien lord. "For us." "For her," Elias replied simply. Arilen entered the chamber, pale but resolute. "There's one way," she said. "The Ascendant Core. It lies beneath the citadel. It's a relic from before the War of Silence. If we awaken it, it can close the rift." "What's the cost?" Elias asked quietly. "A soul bound to light," she whispered. "One life to seal the gate." The room fell silent. The alien nobles looked away. The humans stared at the floor. Elias stepped forward. "Then I'll do it." But Arilen shook her head. "No. You're the bridge between our worlds. You must live." The descent. They descended into the ancient catacombs beneath the citadel, corridors carved in crystal and bone. The deeper they went, the more the walls pulsed with faint blue veins, as if the city itself was alive. At the heart of the chamber lay the Ascendant Core, a sphere of blinding white energy suspended in gravity fields, pulsed like a heartbeat. Elias reached for Arilen's hand. You don't have to do this. She smiled gently. You once told me that love isn't about seeing. It's about believing. Believe in you, Elias. Now believe in me. He clenched his fists. You're not dying for them. I'm not dying, she said softly. I'm returning what was stolen. Before he could stop her, she stepped into the core's light. Her blind eyes flared open, and for the first time she saw the awakening. Images flooded her mind, worlds born and devoured, stars collapsing into hunger, galaxies crying out. The Null sovereigns reached through the rift, faceless, formless, endless. But Arilen's voice rose above the void. No more. She stretched her hands outward and light poured from her body, cascading through every corridor, every starship, every living soul. Elias fell to his knees, blinded by radiance. Ari, he shouted. I see you now, Elias, her voice echoed. I see everything. Then the world exploded into white. Aftermath. When he awoke, the sky was blue again. The rift was gone. The Null sovereigns had vanished. But the citadel lay in ruins. And Arilen? He found her in the star fountain chamber, lying still, her skin pale as moonlight. Her eyes, once clouded, were clear and glowing faintly silver. He knelt beside her. Ari, she smiled weakly. I told you. I'd see you one day. He took her hand. You saved them. You saved all of us. Not just them, she whispered. Now the stars can sleep again. Her hand slipped from his grasp. The light in her eyes faded. Elias bowed his head. The human who married a blind alien girl to unite two warring worlds, and wept as dawn rose over Virilan. Prologue. The message. Years later, the peace between humans and Virilans held strong. Monuments of crystal and steel marked the place where the rift had been sealed. Elias, now older, sat beneath the same twin moons, recording his final log for the Terran archives. They called her blind. But she saw farther than any of us ever did. She saw a universe worth saving. And she reminded us that sometimes it takes someone without sight to teach the rest of us how to see. He looked up. For a moment, he swore he saw her, standing among the stars, smiling. And for the first time in years, he smiled back.